Welcome to The Total Woman. My guest tonight is Rebecca Strauss. We always love having you here. Stellar musician and a woman with a conscience about her world. And we're talking tonight about a special concert that you did recently. It was killing me to not call you because I just wanted to hear about it today. Tell us a little bit about, well, first of all, what you're doing, because you are always doing something new, which is so great.
I got that creative bug.
You
in
do.
Me.
You
I
do
can't help
indeed.
myself.
You do indeed. So what's your latest bug?
Well, the program that I just performed last week was called Harmony and Hope, Responding to Violence with Music. And I developed this program because I just basically couldn't stand hearing about another mass shooting, another person being shot on the street, just the gun violence, mostly gun violence in our nation has just, I hate to use the word exploded, that's the wrong word, but it is just augmented and it's become a norm, which I feel like is so wrong.
Yes.
And I was trying to figure out, what can I do? And everyone has their thing that they feel like they're good at or they can do. Some people are very political. Some people want to go on the corner and shout.
Yeah.
That's not me. So for a long time, I've been thinking about this for quite a while, for a few years, and there was just like one more news story about another mass shooting, and I said, okay, I have to do something. I'm a musician. I'll just use music.
Yes.
So I said, okay, I'm going to create some kind of a healing concert. And I did that. That was in November of 2015, or just maybe October in 2015. I said, okay, I need to do something. I need to do it fast because I can't sit back anymore.
Yeah.
I just can't sit back. And I know that music has an amazing power to heal, to soothe, to give people sort of time to go inside themselves and feel their feelings, to let go of anger or fear or even to feel them and let it out.
Yes.
So I just started developing an idea of a healing concert, and then I thought, it really should be big. Because a 2-hour concert, no matter how great, is not going to get noticed. And this issue in our society it's massive.
Yes.
And it's a huge crisis as far as I'm concerned. And many people are concerned.
Absolutely.
That it is a huge, huge crisis. So I thought, okay, it has to be big. So my first idea was, wow, we'll just have a marathon 24 hours, nonstop classical chamber music. Of course.
Exhausting.
I thought maybe 24 hours is a little much.
Just
a little much.
So, a little bit.
I thought, okay, well, why not 12 hours? Because that you can do that all in one day. So I said, okay, why don't I make it like 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. So as I was thinking about that, not knowing how that was going to happen, I heard about Art Week Boston, that they were starting to take applications for different kinds of arts programs that would involve the public. So
fortuitous.
I just said, okay, I'll just create a program, I'll create a name, and so I just created Harmony and Hope, and then the tagline, Responding to Violence with Music, and I said it's going to be from 9 to 9, and just said that's what I'm going to do. I didn't have a venue, I didn't have musicians yet, but I knew I could get them.
Sure.
I didn't have money. But I just kept on staying focused on what I thought just had to happen. And then I just took it from there. And then it expanded. So you want me to tell you more about the program now?
Absolutely.
So
how did you go about expanding it? Once you decided what it was, you had a lot of hours to fill.
Yes, exactly.
So did you do it all with music?
Yes. Well, not totally, but
Yeah.
yes. So I decided I needed a structure, and I needed to just kind of start weaving musicians into that structure, and my sense of chamber music was what I wanted.
Yes.
So I thought, well, why don't we do something like every hour we'll have a different group, because you can't have people playing for 12 hours
No,
or 6 hours
absolutely
or
not,
whatever.
yeah.
And since my background is in organizing musicians for events, I'm used to that, have all the
Yeah.
connections.
Sure.
So
You were the perfect choice for your idea.
fancy that. So I just basically started contacting musicians and thinking, well, who might be available at the 10 o'clock slot? Who might be available at 3 o'clock? Could we do a string quartet at 10 and a brass quintet at 3 and a flute duet at 2? Or, so I just started working with that and working with people's schedules and filling it in. So it ended up being, just to give you an idea of the different music groups, we had viola quartet, which was 4 violas, which is absolutely
Wonderful.
beautiful.
Wonderful.
That I played too, so I played in a bunch of them. We had flute and oboe duet.
Nice.
We had a brass quintet.
Now, how long did the flute and oboe play?
They played each concert was about 40 to 45 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was a long
That's
time.
a lot of music.
Hard on oboe players' chops.
That's why I asked.
And brass
Yes.
players too. Yeah, so they really worked hard to make it happen, and I think it was a lot of playing.
Yes.
They were tired.
Yes.
But that's why it was no longer than 45
Yes.
minutes. So. We had viola duets, which I played. We had a vocalist and piano. And these are all professional musicians who perform in the Boston area on a regular basis with the Boston Ballet Orchestra, the Boston Pops. They teach all over the place, Boston Modern Orchestra Project, and on it goes. Lots and lots and lots of different orchestras. So all amazing players who really put their heart and soul into these programs. But at the beginning of every hour, we had a speaker talk a little bit about the work that they're doing related to dealing with trauma and gun violence or anti-gun violence issues. And then we had a moment of silence before the music started. So it was quite. It was very healing, very powerful, so almost like prayer on some level. And then we also had families who came who were surviving families of loved ones who had been killed by guns. And I worked with a wonderful violinist who also performed on this program named Shapong Liu, who is now this City of Boston Artist in Residence. And it just so happened that I connected with her before this program or while I was working on the program, and her project is working around issues of gun violence and race in our society and working with the Boston Police Department. So she connected me with the Boston Police Department, which connected me with families who had lost a loved one. And so we brought in some of those families, and she and the Boston Police Department created these huge posters of some of the victims who had been killed, who were the sons, the brothers, different family members of these people. So some of the mothers of these victims also came and spoke about their loved ones. So it was a way to remember these people and a way to heal and to make, basically to bring awareness about this issue. So we had also someone for the Brady campaign against gun violence who came and spoke, the superintendent of in chief from the Boston Police Department spoke.
Terrific.
We had someone, the director of trauma services for the Boston Public Health Commission, Courtney Mark Gray came and spoke. So there were a lot of different parts to this, and also the Louis D. Peace Institute was involved as well. So all people working to help alleviate the pain and suffering from the trauma that happens not
Yes.
to the family, the whole community is affected.
Yes, of course.
So it was huge, a huge undertaking, but a very, very powerful one. So
It sounds wonderful. Now, where did it happen?
the Arlington Street Church in Boston donated the church for this event, which is amazing that
Yes.
they did that, and it was incredibly generous of them.
Yes.
But that church works a lot for social justice issues, and it was a great place to do it because it's a beautiful church.
Yes.
And kind of central in Boston, and I really thank them profusely for
I'm sure.
for their donation.
Did they, did the church, the people from the church, did they respond to you afterwards? Did you get a lot of letters and things back from?
Not yet, and this just happened.
Yes, yes,
so,
realize that.
Yeah, not as of yet. So I think because it just happened.
Yes.
But there's a lot of, the response was mainly from the families who participated in this, who
Sure.
were so grateful that they had a forum, I guess, if you will.
Yes.
Maybe that's not the right word, but a place where their loved one was honored. And for those people working to help those families,
Yes.
there was so much gratefulness, so much appreciation.
Yes.
And the hope is that I will continue, and also Shapeng Lu will continue to bring music into communities where there's a suffering, and to join musicians together with people who are, have this pain, and try to continue not only healing with music,
Yes.
but also to continue dialogue and to come together,
Yes.
because there was a real sense of community and coming together. And the fact is that most of the musicians who played were white, not all, but most of them, and most of the families were black. And again, not all, but
Yes.
it's the fact that gun violence is affecting more the black communities, and
Absolutely.
mostly black men
Yes.
and boys, which is just
Heartbreaking,
devastating,
yes.
heartbreaking. And so I feel like we have to come both sides
Yes.
together, and both sides have to bring what they have.
Yes.
The musicians bring an amazing gift, and I think as a musician, and finally working through all my issues of
Sure.
being a musician, what I finally realize is music is an amazing gift that can be given, if you will,
Yes.
to people on many different levels. You don't have to understand the music, you just have to feel it.
Yes.
And to create a space for musicians to use their music to heal is just, it's incredible for the musicians and incredible for the audience. And to join together more with that, to me, would be a real dream of mine.
Absolutely.
To bring that together. So I'm trying to figure out how to do that. But it's different from just playing on a stage, which is lovely and wonderful, and we
Yes.
should have lots and lots
Lots
of it.
more, yes.
But to have a cause, if you will, or a way that you're really using your music to affect immediate change
Yes.
is really, it's very powerful.
Yes.
And it's transformative on both sides.
I'm sure.
So,
When you play, and you know who you, what's unusual about this is you
Yeah.
know who your audience is,
Yes.
which is not always the case.
Right.
Most of the time it isn't the case. There are
Right.
people who have tickets or,
Right.
are interested in classical music or medieval music or whatever.
right.
But now you have people coming who might not be normally listening to classical music.
Right.
And I wonder, as a performer, because I've performed also music, I was a singer. There are times when you feel like everybody's with you. You get that sudden sense, and it comes on rather quickly, where suddenly you're aware that the audience is really tuned in,
Right. Right.
and you perform better.
Right.
It's like somebody going, yes,
Right.
keep going, keep
Yeah.
going, keep going. This is great. I
Exactly.
love this. Don't ever let
Exactly.
it stop. And I wonder, when your musicians or when you were playing, did you have that sense?
For me, I play best when I have a sense that my music is connecting directly to
Yes.
people.
Yes.
And where it's not about, am I playing the notes perfectly?
Perfectly,
Like
yes.
sometimes I feel like an orchestra.
Yes.
But, so it gives me this energy and this strength and excitement
Yes.
to just dig in
Yes.
and find the deepest emotion that I can and bring that out in the music
Yes.
and give it to someone. And it's not a matter of them understanding the music, because what I also have learned over the years is that every audience person, everyone listening to the music, will take the music and interpret it in their
Yes.
own way.
Yes.
And they will experience it in their own way. So my understanding of the music does not have to be their understanding. But I feel like as a performer, I need to give of myself
Yes.
to hand over in a way, to just find the energy in me so that I can transfer that to the
Yes.
audience. And then the opposite happens, where they then transfer their energy to me and I feel it, and it becomes
Yes.
like a cycle, you know,
Yes.
or a back and forth. And when you feel that energy, it's like you just feel this, I don't know, it's
Power.
like a power,
It's like a power.
connection.
Yes. It's
And
kind of a high.
It is a high.
Yes.
Yeah. But you really have to let go of, did I do that perfectly? Did I
You
do
do.
that right?
You do.
Did I-
That's true.
And I was very much into that mode for way too many years. But I'm letting go of that. And just to take that back to the event that we did, what happened at the very end, I was actually the last performer of the evening. And then when we were done, and this was at 9 o'clock after, starting at 9 a.m., what I asked is that if people wanted to, everyone in the audience plus musicians could gather in a circle and hold hands and have final prayer. And or final words or final
Yes.
remembrances,
Yes.
and anyone who wanted to talk could. So there was a group of people, many of them didn't know each other, some did, and we all held hands, and it became like this amazing community all of a
Yes.
sudden. And I don't know, to me that was sort of the pinnacle of what it was all about.
Yes.
And then also, people came up to me later and said things like, that music brought tears to my eyes,
Yes.
but it wasn't like tears of sadness
Sadness.
necessarily. It was because they felt
Being
something.
touched.
Yeah,
They've been touched.
exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. And another person said, listening to the music and looking at the posters of the people who had been killed
Yes.
made it more powerful, because it was there was a reason for this music to heal.
Yes.
So there were so many elements, but it is a wonderful way to perform for me.
Yes.
I think
I'm sure for the other
for the
performers
other,
too.
yeah,
Absolutely.
The musicians said to me, many of them said how honored they were to be a part
Yes.
of it, how much it meant to them to be able to perform
Yes.
in such a setting. And many people have also said, I hope this becomes an annual event. Not necessarily 12 hours,
Yeah.
but something where we perform for the same purpose.
Yes.
Because
And a little different each time.
yeah,
Adding
exactly.
something new.
Exactly.
Maybe black musicians
Exactly. It can
not
be.
doing classical music.
It can
doing
be
something
anything.
else.
Yeah.
Or
absolutely.
classical music.
Right. It could be. It could be anything. So, yeah, one step at a time. But it's
Yeah.
exciting that people think that it would be nice to continue what started, which is awareness of this crisis
Yeah.
in our society and a need for healing and to
Yeah.
take care of those people in our community who have been who have really suffered by losing a son or a daughter or a brother. And some people, sadly, have lost two sons. There are many people who have lost more than one person in their family or their extended family. And that just, it's so wrong to me. Because we
So
don't.
unfair.
It's so unfair,
Yes.
and it's so wrong. And I believe we can do something about it. We don't have to have guns in our society. But that's a whole other issue. I mean,
That's a legislative issue.
Right. My focus is let's take care of people in the way, for me, in the way that I know how, which is to create
Yes.
music and use my music and the music of those my wonderful colleagues to make that happen.
I agree with you that there's nothing that moves the soul like music. And if you love music and have been surrounded with it your whole life, you can't imagine living without it. And we select music, those of us who don't play but get to select what we want to listen to, and there are millions today
Yes.
ways of doing that. You realize that you do, maybe subconsciously, select music when you're sad or upset that will either allow you to vent it, that you know will make you sad, that you know will move you to
Right.
tears,
Right.
to kind of express it and acknowledge the fact that you're sad, and to cry it out or to mourn it out, whatever
Right.
it is. And then other times when joyous music makes you realize that the person you've lost or whatever it is that you're upset about was a joy to you,
Right.
and that and then it brings back that joy
Right. Absolutely.
of when you were with them or
Right.
when you knew this person.
Right.
I can't think of another medium that works better than music.
Well, and I think there's an added element that is, in this day and age, you can get music on your iPod and your cell phone and your computer and the radio and the TV, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Your belly button is next.
Yeah. Right, probably you can just pull your ear and you'll have music. But there's a whole different element when it's live.
Oh, absolutely.
When it's person to person. And it's not just the amazing vibrations that come
Yeah.
out of the instruments,
Yes.
especially when it's acoustically played, no microphones and all of that.
Yes.
But there is that human connection that happens when someone is producing those sounds right in front of
Yes.
you, that it has another level of meaning.
It does.
To the audience.
Absolutely.
And I know you've done a program before about Shelter Music Boston,
Yes.
which I also perform with, and that is playing chamber music in homeless shelters. And that Shelter Music Boston has been going on for over 5 years now.
Yeah. Wow.
And we now play a series of about 7 concerts a month.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's really amazing.
Wow.
In different shelters around the Boston area. And it never ceases to amaze me the impact of our music that it has because we are there.
Yes.
It's not just
not coming
turning
through a
on the TV.
speaker.
Right.
Yeah.
We are there. We're interacting
Yes.
with our audience. And that is such an important element. I mean, the live music is important,
Yes.
but it's the human interaction that adds. So Shelter Music Boston is doing it, and this program Harmony and Hope, and there's so many other ways that people can use music, and there are so many people out there doing it. And I think
Yes.
there's more an understanding these days that live music it's not a frill, it's not an extra.
Yes.
It's essential
Yes.
to our souls,
Yes.
and it's because of that human interaction, and that the music is being created right in front of you, for
Yes.
you.
Yes.
So,
Well, you feel, when you play music really loud, you feel the vibration of it coming out of a machine.
right.
But when you see someone playing and you see their hands moving or their mouth blowing, and you think, at least I do, every time, and my whole life I've gone to concerts since I was a little girl, I'm always struck with that. Wow, that looks really hard. That looks like I wonder how many years that person had to work
Right.
to get to that level of proficiency.
Right. Right.
And we don't talk about that in music like we did in the jazz age or even in the big band age. Classical music goes farther back, and we know that it was created and enjoyed and thought about and considered part of a good education.
Yeah.
But that kind of filtered away. And then we had popular music, which no one ever talks or rarely talks about the skill of it because so much of it is mechanical. Not that the singer isn't great or the music isn't wonderful,
Right.
but when you see it live, it is completely different.
Right.
I'm mesmerized by it. I can't stop watching the musician, someone with a bow, and I know how difficult it is, and I know how delicate it is, and how you move the bow, and how you change the sound of the instrument, and how you hold it, how hard you hold it, and how soft you hold it, and I'm filled with amazement every time. Wow, that's fantastic. I bet she plays all the time. And then I thought, well, you can't walk through the street. Somehow you realize that you may have never done a discipline like that. You may be a great person who writes beautifully, and somehow it's not the same because you can't share it in the same way that music can be shared and can move people.
Yeah.
And so it is unique in that respect. And it's so wonderful what you've done. What you've done. It's just,
thank you so much.
It's just so great.
Well, also, if I can interrupt for a second, just going back to the idea of classical music, at one time, classical music was just what people did.
Yes.
They just performed in their salon, in their
salons,
their chambers,
yes.
their living rooms. I mean, there were no TVs and all that, so entertainment was you played instruments for each other, and that was the way you communicated on some level. That's how you partied and whatever.
Sure.
And now, there is a sort of a need for music to be a part of our everyday lives. We can't just be staring at our iPhones all the time, to have that interaction in our daily lives.
Yes.
That's why with Shelter Music Boston, we go into the shelters.
Sure.
And to bring music to people wherever they are is just, for me, that would be amazing to just get musicians out into the community as much as possible.
And you're doing that.
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
many
both
other
of
people
these
too.
projects that you're working on are really doing that.
Yeah.
It should be great for the people and great for the musicians, and hopefully an addictive behavior.
Yes, I agree.
That people feel, gee, it's been a month since I've gone to a concert.
Right,
I haven't
right.
seen somebody actually play.
Right, right.
So, for those of you at home who haven't done that in a while, keep in mind what Rebecca's been talking about, because it is an experience you should not let your life go by without having. Not a rock concert. I love them too, but this is special, and you are too.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
This was wonderful.
Thank
This was
you.
wonderful. Pretty impressive lady over here, don't you think? Thank you for being with us this evening on The Total Woman.